Captain Elias Ward had seen many worlds. Some were deserts of red sand, others oceans that stretched like glass under alien skis. But nothing had prepared him for this one. From the moment he stepped off the shuttle, he felt a strange mix of awe and unease. Towering spires of crystal stretched into the sky, shimmering under three suns that painted the world in shades he had no names for. The air smelled faintly of something sweet and metallic, and strange birds with wings like ribbons fluttered above. Every instinct in him whispered that this place was not meant for humans, yet here he was. He followed the palace guards through corridors that seemed to pulse with light. The walls themselves shimmered like liquid silver, and the floor beneath his boots gave a faint hum, almost like it was alive. Elias had trained for war, for danger, for the worst of the universe, but he had never trained for this kind of silence. No alarms rang, no warnings came. Only the soft, endless glow that surrounded him and the knowledge that he was being watched. At last he reached the throne room, and there she was, the alien queen. She did not rise, but her presence was enough to make the room feel smaller, her power pressing against him like gravity. Her skin was pale, almost translucent, and her eyes burned gold like molten metal. She wore robes that flowed like liquid light and a crown that seemed to grow from her head, shaped like the spires outside. She looked at him steadily, and for the first time in a long while, Elias felt small. "Human," she said, her voice both soft and commanding, "you are not here by chance." Elias swallowed, keeping his hands at his sides. He had faced enemies who wanted to kill him, worlds that wanted to swallow him whole, yet none of it compared to the weight of her gaze. I don't understand, Your Majesty," he said carefully, trying to keep his voice steady. She leaned slightly closer, her eyes narrowing, and for a moment he thought she might strike. But instead, she spoke with a softness that made his chest tighten. "My daughter needs you." The words hit him harder than any gunfire or explosion ever had. He blinked, unsure if he had heard correctly. A human was here, chosen not for battle, not for politics, but for something else. Something he could not yet name. The queen rose, her movements fluid, almost floating, and gestured for him to follow. "Do not fear," she said. "You are not here to fight, but to help. What you carry within you is rare. It may be the only thing that can save her." Elias' mind raced. Help her, save her. Who was she and why him? His training and experience told him to be cautious, to question, to watch for traps. Yet something in the queen's tone, in the golden fire of her eyes, told him that she was sincere, that the life of her daughter depended on him. He followed her through the palace, down winding staircases, and past gardens that glowed with plants whose colors shifted with every step. Some flowers moved as if alive, petals opening toward him and closing again as though curious. The air hummed faintly, resonating in his chest. Every sense in him was on alert, yet a strange calm settled over him. He did not know what he would face, but somehow he knew that turning away was not an option. Finally, they reached a room unlike the rest. It was smaller, warmer, filled with the soft glow of bioluminescent plants. In the center lay the princess, her eyes closed, her body frail and trembling. She was beautiful in a way that made Elias' heart ache, a life too delicate to be held in such a harsh universe. The queen stepped closer to her daughter, her hand hovering above his forehead. "She has suffered long," the queen said quietly, more to herself than to him. Then she turned to Elias again. "You may not understand why you are here. Perhaps no one ever will. But know this, human, my daughter's life depends on you. I am asking, no, I am pleading for your courage, your heart, and your strength." Elias felt the weight of the moment press down on him. He had faced death many times, but he had never been asked to save a life in a world so strange, so alien, and yet so connected to him in a way he could not explain. He knelt slightly, not in submission, but in acknowledgement. "I will do my best," he said. His voice was firm, yet low, carrying a promise. The queen inclined her head, a subtle sign of respect and hope, and for the first time, Elias understood that this mission would test more than his skill. It would test his humanity itself. And somewhere deep inside, he felt the faint spark of something extraordinary begin. Elia stayed by the princess's side, watching as she stirred slightly, her eyelids fluttering open. Eyes were a pale violet dimmed by sickness, yet they carried a spark of curiosity that cut through the room's quiet. She struggled to sit up, but her body trembled, and Elia's moved instinctively, steadying her with gentle hands. "Human," she whispered, her voice barely audible, "you came." The words were simple, yet they held a fragile hope, a question that seemed almost impossible to answer. Elias gave her a small nod. "Yes, I'm here," he said. He had never been a healer, never studied alien biology, but something deep in him urged him to try. The queen watched silently, her golden eyes unblinking. "She has been weakened by a sickness no healer can touch," she explained softly. "It has lingered for weeks, consuming her strength. I have summoned you because you are unlike anyone we have ever known. Perhaps only you can save her." Elias felt a chill run down his spine. He had fought battles on multiple worlds, faced enemies with unimaginable powers, but nothing prepared him for the weight of responsibility pressing against his chest right now. The life of this young alien rested in his hands, and no training manual, no combat experience could guide him here. Tried to speak again, but a cough shook her small frame. Her skin had a faint glow under the bioluminescent light, but the shimmer was uneven, flickering with weakness. "It hurts," she said, wincing, her fingers trembling as they clutched the edge of the soft bed beneath her. Elias placed his hand over hers, steadying her, trying to give comfort where words could not. "You are not alone," he said quietly. "We'll find a way." He realized how strange it must have sounded to her, a human, someone from a completely different world promising help. Yet the intensity of his gaze, the steady rhythm of his voice, seemed to reach a part of her that others could not. The queen stepped closer, her expression a mixture of hope and worry. "Has hidden her suffering to protect us," she said. She did not want anyone to know how weak she truly became, but now it is clear that she cannot face this alone. Her words carried weight. Elias could feel the unspoken pain in the room, the fear of losing her, the helplessness that came from centuries of knowledge and power yet inability to save a single life. Looked at him, a faint smile touching her lips despite her weakness. I don't even know if you can help," she admitted, "but I want to try." Elias felt the warmth of her trust, fragile yet powerful. It was the kind of trust that made a man feel both honored and terrified at once. He glanced at the queen, who nodded slightly, a subtle gesture of encouragement. "She is ready," the queen said. "And you must be ready as well. This is not a journey of strength alone, but of heart." Elias took a deep breath, feeling the weight of his decision settling on his shoulders. He had faced impossible odds before, but none had carried the intimacy of this responsibility. Every instinct told him to step back, to consider that he was not equipped for this. Yet, when he looked into his eyes, so small, so fragile yet carrying hope, he knew he could not walk away. "We will find the answer together," he promised. His hand tightened around his, and in that moment a quiet bond was formed, something that transcended species, language, and even worlds. He realized that sometimes courage was not about facing enemies, but about facing the unknown, stepping into a task that seemed beyond comprehension, and refusing to let fear guide your choices. Outside the palace, the alien sky shimmered with twin moons rising slowly, casting a soft glow over the crystal spires. Inside, the human and the alien girl sat side by side, the silence between them filled not with uncertainty, but with the fragile pulse of hope. It was a beginning, a step towards something that neither of them could yet fully understand, but both would walk together. And for Elias, a simple human soldier in a galaxy of wonders and dangers, that small spark of trust, that fragile connection, was enough to ignite a determination he had never known he possessed. Elias led Princess through the palace gates, stepping into a world that felt alive in a way he had never imagined. The path ahead was the forbidden sector, a place no outsider had ever walked safely. Strange plants glowed softly in the twilight, their vines curling and twisting like living sculptures. The air carried a hum that vibrated through his chest, as if the planet itself was breathing. Walked slowly beside him, leaning on his arm for support. Her small hand trembled, but there was determination in her eyes. "This is the only way," she said quietly. "The heart of the planet holds the cure, but I cannot reach it alone." Elias nodded, understanding that he had been chosen not for strength, but for steadiness. His hands, trained to wield weapons, would now be tools of guidance and protection. The terrain shifted beneath their feet. Stones floated slightly above the ground, making every step feel like walking on invisible waves. Bioluminescent insects darted through the air, leaving streaks of light like falling stars. Elias kept his focus sharp, aware that the forbidden sector was full of dangers, both seen and unseen. Every rustle in the plants, every whisper of the wind made him pause, alert. Suddenly, a shadow moved among the glowing foliage. A predator with translucent skin and 6 luminous eyes lunged at them. Elias reacted instinctively, grabbing a fallen branch and swinging it with precision. The creature screeched and recoiled, its form shimmering before dissolving into the night. Gasped but did not cry. She was scared, but she refused to let fear stop her. "You are amazing," she whispered after a moment, her hand tightening around his. Elias smiled faintly, though his mind was racing. "We need each other," he said simply. "That's what matters right now." Her eyes held a quiet gratitude that touched him more than words ever could. In her fragile strength, he saw a reflection of what made humanity remarkable, the will to keep moving, even when everything seems impossible. Hours passed, yet the path seemed endless. The planet itself seemed to resist their progress. Trees shifted, roots reached out like hands, and glowing flowers opened suddenly, releasing bursts of spores that made Elias cough. He helped through every obstacle, lifting her over jagged rocks, shielding her from the strange currents of energy that pulsed across the ground. Each time he looked at her, he felt the weight of the Queen's words pressing on him. "My daughter needs you." At one point stumbled, collapsing to the soft moss beneath them. Her face was pale, her breath shallow. Elias knelt beside her, scanning her body for any signs of worsening. "You're safe," he said, his hand on her forehead. "We'll get through this, just a little further." She tried to speak, but only managed a small nod, her trust unspoken but clear. As they neared the center of the forbidden sector, the air changed. It was thicker, electric with energy, and the ground began to pulse faintly beneath their feet. Strange crystal formations jutted out of the earth, their surfaces shimmering with colors that made Elias' head spin. Steps slowed, her small body struggling to keep up with the increasing energy of the place. "We're close," she whispered, her voice trembling but determined. Elias reached for her hand, squeezing it firmly. "We are together in this," he said. "No matter what happens, we keep going. You are not alone." She looked at him, her eyes glistening with tears she did not bother to hide. For the first time, Elias felt a fierce, protective instinct rise in him, not for a mission, not for honor, but for this young life depending on him. The forbidden sector stretched endlessly ahead, alive and dangerous, yet Elias felt a strange calm. Each step brought them closer to the heart of the planet, and each moment of shared struggle deepened the bond between human and alien. In this world of impossible beauty and hidden peril, one truth became clear. Courage was not measured by strength alone, but by the willingness to face the unknown for someone else's sake. And so, Elias pressed forward, side by side, into the heart of a world that tested everything they knew, and everything they were willing to risk. The heart of the planet loomed ahead, a crystal monolith that pulsed with a light unlike anything Elias had ever seen. It radiated warmth and power, and the air around it shimmered as if reality itself was bending. Every instinct in him told him to be careful. Yet it was their only hope. She moved forward slowly, her small hand brushing against the crystal as though it could heal her by touch. Elias noticed the faint tremor in her fingers, the way her body leaned on his for support. "Be careful," he warned softly. "We don't know what this thing might do." Nodded, though her eyes were fixed on the monolith, as if she could sense something deeper than he could. As they approached, the crystal's glow intensified, bathing them in waves of colors that shifted faster than the eye could follow. Suddenly, the ground shook. A surge of energy shot from the heart, striking them with a force that knocked Elias to his knees. Cried out, her voice small and scared, and he grabbed her, shielding her as sparks of light danced around them. When the energy faded, Elias noticed something strange. Images, visions flashed in his mind. He saw the history of people, battles fought, civilizations risen and fallen. He saw faces he had never known, heard voices whispering in languages he could not understand, yet somehow comprehended. And then, the most astonishing revelation. Humans were part of this history, distant ancestors woven into the fate of this alien race. Watched him confused but trusting. "Are you okay?" she asked, her voice small. Elias shook his head, trying to clear the visions. I see things," he admitted. "Things I can't explain, but it's connected to you, to this place." She touched his arm gently. "Then maybe you are the one who can help me." The Queen's words echoed in his mind. "You carry what they cannot." Suddenly, Elias understood why he had been chosen. His human biology, altered slightly by a rare interstellar gene variant, could harmonize with the heart's energy. No alien could do what he could. The revelation filled him with awe and fear. He was not just a soldier here. He was the key. Coughed weakly, and he steadied her. "I have to try," he said, voice firm despite the uncertainty that churned in his chest. The crystal pulsed again, responding to him. It was as if it recognized the courage and determination within him, feeding off his humanity. Elias reached out, placing his hands on the monolith, and felt a strange warmth flow through him, a connection that spanned species, worlds, and lifetimes. The visions intensified. He saw as a child, laughing under alien suns. He saw her fear, her suffering, and her desperate hope. And in a sudden moment of clarity, he realized the truth. Saving her would require everything he had: strength, courage, and a heart willing to endure more than he had ever imagined. His hand found his again, grounding him. "Don't be afraid," she whispered. "I trust you." Her trust was unwavering, innocent, and pure. In that moment, Elias felt a surge of determination unlike any battlefield adrenaline he had ever known. This was not about survival or victory. This was about life, about hope, about proving that humanity could touch even the farthest stars in ways that no alien power could. He inhaled deeply, steadying himself. "Then let's do this together," he said. And with that he closed his eyes, letting his humanity merge with the heart's energy. A warm glow enveloped both him and for the first time, Elias understood the true meaning of being chosen, not for power but for heart. The revelations were not just about the heart or the planet. They were about connection, courage, and the extraordinary potential of a single human willing to stand in the face of the impossible. And as the light from the heart grew brighter, Elias felt the first true step of their journey towards saving, and perhaps, changing the fate of her people forever. The glow from the heart of the planet wrapped Elias in a cocoon of light. It pulsed with life, and he could feel it responding to him, but it was not gentle. Waves of energy washed over them, sharp and overwhelming, whimpered as her body shivered under the strange force. Elias gritted his teeth, holding her close, feeling the weight of responsibility pressing against him like never before. "You have to focus," he whispered, more to himself than to her. "We can do this, we have to." The heart reacted to his determination, but it was testing him, probing the limits of his courage and strength. His muscles burned and his mind spun with visions, memories of every battlefield, every life he had ever tried to save. Each moment surged through him like electricity, but he refused to let it overwhelm him. His body trembled beside him. "It hurts," she gasped. Her voice was small, fragile, yet laced with trust. Elias held her hand firmly, letting his own pulse guide her. "I'm here," he said. "You're not alone, we face this together." She nodded weakly, squeezing his hand. Her eyes, though clouded by pain, shone with a spark of hope. The heart's energy intensified. A storm of color and light surrounded them, and Elias could feel the pulse of life itself flowing through the crystal. He realized that he could not just stand beside, He had to become part of the heart's rhythm, to channel its energy into her, to merge his own humanity with the alien power that had been to others. Fear rose within him, but he swallowed it down. This was bigger than him. This was her life. He took a deep breath and began to focus, recalling the lullaby his mother had sung when he was a child. The melody was simple, but it carried warmth, comfort, and a strength that had never left him. Softly, he sang, letting the vibrations of his voice flow into the heart, into the connection between them. The crystal responded, pulsing brighter with each note. His body began to glow faintly, her color returning in patches. Her trembling slowed as the energy reached her, harmonized by Elia's presence. She looked up at him, eyes wide with awe and fear. "You can do this," she whispered. He gave her a small nod, his own energy spent but unwavering. "We're doing it together, just a little longer." The storm of energy peaked, pushing against them with unimaginable force. Elias gritted his teeth, standing firm, feeling the strain in every fiber of his being. Pain, exhaustion, fear, they all surged at once. But he remembered her trust, the Queen's plea, and the countless lives he had sworn to protect in the past. Courage was not the absence of fear. Courage was facing it, even when the odds seemed impossible. Finally, the heart's light softened, wrapping them in a gentle warmth. Breathing steadied, her color fully returning, her strength restored. She looked at Elias, a smile trembling across her lips. I feel better," she said softly, almost in disbelief. Elias smiled, exhaustion washing over him, but pride and relief filling his heart. The Queen's voice echoed faintly in the distance, though they could not see her. "You have succeeded where none could," she said, a mixture of awe and gratitude in her tone. Elias felt the truth of her words. This was not a victory of weapons or strategy. It was a triumph of heart, courage, and trust. Leaned on him, fragile but alive. Elias held her close, feeling the pulse of her renewed life and the incredible bond they had forged. He realized something profound. Being human was not just about strength or skill. It was about compassion, determination, and the willingness to face the impossible for someone else. For the first time in his life, Elias understood the extraordinary potential of humanity. One human, standing firm in the face of the unknown, had changed the course of an alien life, and perhaps the future of an entire civilization. And as the light from the heart faded to a soft glow, Elias felt the quiet satisfaction of knowing that he had done more than survive. He had saved a life, inspired hope, and shown that even the smallest human could carry the weight of worlds on their shoulders. The journey back to the palace was quiet, yet charged with a new energy. Elias walked beside, who now held herself taller, her steps more certain. The forbidden sector still hummed with life around them, but the danger that had once lurked in every shadow seemed to have diminished. The heart of the planet had healed her, but it had also left a lingering connection, one that both Elias and could feel. Glanced at him, her violet eyes bright for the first time since he had met her. "I never thought I would feel this strong again," she said softly, almost in disbelief. Elias smiled, adjusting the strap of his gear. "You've always had the strength. You just needed a little help to bring it back," he replied. The bond between them had deepened during the trial. It was no longer simply human helping alien. It was two beings connected by trust and courage. The terrain outside the forbidden sector was less treacherous, yet it still demanded focus. Strange plants waved like sentinels, and luminous creatures skittered across the ground. Elias kept a watchful eye, moving instinctively to clear the path or shield from anything unexpected. Each time he looked at her, he felt an unusual mixture of pride and protectiveness. Saving her had been one thing. Walking her safely back was another kind of responsibility, one he embraced wholeheartedly. At one point paused, looking out at a valley bathed in the soft glow of the planet's three suns. She let out a soft sigh, the weight of recent events catching up with her. Elias stopped and placed a hand gently on her shoulder. "It's okay to be tired," he said. "You've been through a lot and it's normal to feel it all now." She smiled faintly, grateful for his calm presence. In that simple moment, he realized how much he had grown. not just as a soldier, but as someone capable of empathy and patience beyond what he had thought possible. Hours passed as they continued toward the palace. They spoke little, each lost in thought, yet their silent communication was stronger than any words. Elias understood her fears, her hopes, her lingering doubts, and understood him, too, his humanity, his determination, and the deep sense of responsibility he carried. It was a quiet intimacy, forged in struggle and danger, yet unspoken. When the palace came into view, its towering crystal spires shimmering in the afternoon light, a sense of relief washed over them both. The guards at the gates bowed deeply, whispering among themselves about the human who had ventured into the forbidden sector and returned with the princess healed. Elias felt a strange pride, a warmth that had nothing to do with victory and everything to do with the trust placed in him. The queen appeared at the entrance, her golden eyes glowing softly in the light. She did not speak at first, merely observing them as they approached. Then her lips curved into a small, approving smile. "You have returned," she said, "and you have done what none could do." Her voice carried gratitude, awe, and respect. Elias felt a lump in his throat. Words had never felt sufficient for moments like this, yet he nodded, understanding that his actions had spoken louder than any speech ever could. Ran forward, her steps quick now, and embraced her mother. I'm better thanks to him," she said, gesturing toward Elias. The queen's gaze shifted to him, sharp yet thoughtful. "You have not only saved my daughter," she said finally, "but you have reminded us all of something we have forgotten, that courage and compassion can come from the most unexpected places." Elias felt a rare warmth spread through him, a mix of relief, pride, and humility. He had faced dangers, survived the impossible, and now he stood in a palace that felt less like alien territory and more like a place where his actions mattered beyond himself. Squeezed his hand briefly, a silent thank you that said more than any words could. As the sun set across the crystal spires, Elias realized that this mission had changed him. Humanity had left its mark on this alien world, not through weapons or conquest, but through courage, heart, and a willingness to stand beside another being in need. And for the first time in a long while, he felt truly at home in the universe. The grand hall of the palace was alive with soft light, the crystal spires reflecting golden hues across the vast room. Hundreds of alien figures gathered, their faces filled with curiosity, awe, and a quiet respect. At the center stood the queen, regal and composed, beside Princess, whose recovered strength made her appear almost radiant. And there, standing slightly apart but at the heart of attention, was Elias Ward, the human who had done the impossible. The hall fell silent as the queen's voice rang clear, commanding yet gentle. "You came to us as a soldier," she said, her golden eyes scanning the assembly. "But you leave as a part of our family. Human, you have earned not only our gratitude but our trust, our admiration, and our honor." Elias' chest tightened. He had fought battles, led troops, and survived countless dangers across the galaxy, but this recognition was different. It was not given for victories in war or clever tactics. It was given for courage, compassion, and the willingness to risk everything for another life. His human heart, simple but unwavering, had bridged worlds and changed destinies. Stepped forward, her eyes shining. "I owe my life to you," she said softly. "You believed in me when I could barely stand. You faced the unknown, not for glory, not for reward, but because it was the right thing to do." She reached out, placing her small hand on his. The warmth of her touch carried more meaning than words ever could. Elias looked down at her, humbled and proud at the same time. The queen inclined her head, her voice steady but filled with emotion. The heart of the planet responded to him because he carries what no other being could offer: human courage, human empathy, and a human soul. Never forget Elias Ward. One human can change more than worlds. One human can touch the life of an empire. The crowd murmured in awe, whispers of respect and astonishment traveling through the hall. For Elias, this was a moment beyond any battlefield honor, beyond medals or commendations. He realized that humanity had left its mark not through force, but through heart. His actions had reminded an entire civilization of the power of trust, courage, and compassion, the qualities that made humans extraordinary. His gaze met his full of gratitude and unspoken connection. "Will you stay?" she asked quietly. "Here with us?" Elias hesitated, feeling the pull of home and duty, yet also sensing the bonds he had formed, the lives he had touched. He nodded slowly, a small smile on his lips. "Yes, for now I think I belong here too." The queen extended her hand and Elias bowed slightly before accepting it. The gesture was more than formality. It was a bridge, a connection, an acknowledgement of belonging. Around them, the assembly shifted, offering quiet approval, as if the universe itself recognized that something extraordinary had happened. Elias looked around the hall, feeling the weight of the moment. He had faced the unknown, confronted danger beyond imagination, and saved a life that mattered to an entire people. And in doing so, he had learned something profound. Humanity's true strength was not just in technology, in strength, or in intellect. It was in courage, in heart, and in the willingness to stand beside another being, no matter the odds. As the sun set beyond the crystal spires, bathing the palace in warm light, Elias felt a deep sense of fulfillment. He had come to this world as an outsider, a human soldier among strangers, but he would leave, if he chose to, as someone who had proven the extraordinary potential of his kind. One human had made a difference. One human had changed the course of a life, and perhaps the future of a civilization. The queen's final words echoed softly as he looked at her, hand still in his. "Never doubt what one human can do." And in that moment, Elias understood completely. Humanity was not just strong. Humanity was extraordinary. The hall erupted in quiet applause. A mixture of alien voices united in respect and awe, and Elias smiled, knowing that his journey had not just saved a life. It had proven that courage and compassion could reach across the stars. And for the first time, he felt truly, undeniably at home.